Hey everyone, welcome back. We are going to talk about your next assignment. We're going to switch gears and do things a little bit differently. So I want to stay on some of the tools that we're currently using. This is kind of the meat of the course. There's no reason to rush. What I'm going to do is get you guys to download the same images and work on them. And first I'm going to go ahead and show you some of the things I'd like you to do. So you'll actually be able to see the corrections I'm making, and then I'd like you to try to duplicate the changes I make as best you can, okay? So when you go to week 8, you're going to see this folder, stock photos. Just click on that, download. There'll be 3 images there, and those will be the images that you're going to work on. So let's go ahead and get started. And you'll do the same thing. You'll download them to your desktop as I'm about to do here. So I'm going to go to the library module. I'm going to go to import. Look on my desktop, and I called this week 8. And these are the 3 images. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and import those images into the catalog. They already exist on my desktop. And here we go. Alright, so let's talk about some of the tools that we can use and practice with these particular images. Let's go ahead and start with this one and use the spot removal tool. I'm going to go into develop. Now of course I added a bunch of blemishes to these images. These are stock images, by the way, from a website called Unsplash, and I've given credit for the photographers. Alright, so we're going to go here. Remember, if you hover your mouse, you can see what the tool is named, and that is the spot removal tool. You have a choice between clone and heal. Clone is going to copy from one area to another, and heal is going to kind of do a little bit more blending. In this case, I think we're going to use clone. Feather, it's always good to have that up pretty high. And what that does is, so when you make a correction, you don't have a really sharp edge. And opacity, you're almost always going to want that at 100%. If you have it less, then you'll be able to see through and still see the blemish that was there to a certain degree. So put it at 100% so it copies 100% from one place to another. Okay, I'm going to use the right brackets, or you could use the slider here for size, but the right brackets are convenient. They're right next to the letter P on your keyboard. So what happens is when I paint over that, it's copying somewhere nearby, and if I hit the H key, H for hide, I'm seeing that, oh, I painted here, but it's actually copied from here. I can show you. See, if I put it there, it's going to copy from that area, which you wouldn't want. So if you don't like the selection it makes, you can go ahead and pick another one that you think might look better. All right, and then continuing on. Let's get rid of that. That probably looks okay, and if I can't tell, I can hit H to hide so I can see a little better. Let's do this one, and see how it left a little bit there? I could do Command Z to back up. I'm also going to reduce the size of the brush. It's bigger than I need. Still a little big. And I'm going to hit H to see what it's doing. So, it's picking up this little piece here and copying it. So all I have to do is move this somewhere else, and it makes a good clean selection. I'll hit H to get rid of that. Same here. Sometimes you can just go right back over it. Now I do see that it's a little bit darker here, so I'm going to go over that again, and that looks better, but it still picked up that one spot. Let's get rid of that. Always remember, you can do Command Z to back up if you make a mistake. Alright, let's get rid of all these spots. I'm going to work a little bit more quickly here. Looks pretty good. This one. Okay, now I made this one because this is tricky. It's on a border here. So what you can do is to copy this or to select it, I should say. Now see how it made that mistake? I'm going to hit H so I can see where it's copying from. And I'm going to move this and then just scoot it over to where that lines up. And that looks pretty good. Now, you can see here with the feather tool, if I take that feather out, well, in this case, it didn't make a whole lot of difference. I can see it on my screen, but I'm not sure that you would be able to see that sharp edge. Most of the time, you want to keep that feather high. All right, so that is all the corrections you can see that I made there. If I hit H, they disappear. Of course, those don't show when you export the photo. So take that photo and make those same corrections. All right, let's move on to another photo and see what we can do there. All right, with this one, I don't see any sensor spots or anything that we need to get rid of, but a lot of times in the sky you might have some and you'd use the spot removal tool. For this photo, I want to go ahead and use the graduated filter tool. So I'm going to click on that. I'm going to click and pull down, and I'm going to hit the H key again so I can see what I'm doing. So this shows me roughly what it's going to do, and if I hold that, that pink is a mask, and it shows me how it's going to behave with that. So what you see is you have some density up near the top. That's my big finger. And then it slowly starts to gradually fade away. So you don't have a real sharp line there, which is probably good. So any of these sliders you have, you could bring into play here. So what if I made it a little bit darker and maybe added some blue? Now I've got blue sky there. And I still have this white area. So what I could do is just drop this down a little bit further and bring this line up possibly to where that transition's a little bit more sudden there. And that looks somewhat natural. A lot of times you're going to have some white glow in the sky there. So that looks good. Let's go with that. You could always play with some different settings. If you had clouds and you played with clarity, for example, that would accentuate that. But for right now, just want you to see how the graduated filter works. Okay? Let's move on to the next one. All right, for this picture, what I want to do is to work with the brush tool. Brush tool is a really powerful tool. You can do so many things with it. So I want to lighten up the dark areas of his face and some other areas. So I can see what I'm doing. I'm going to press Command plus, and that's going to help me zoom in. And when I let go of the keyboard and hold on to the space bar, the big long bar, I get a hand tool. See that? I'm pressing the space bar, I get a hand tool. That allows me to move the photo around. So I'm going to drag it down, and I could even zoom in some more if I wanted. All right, so let's go to the brush tool now. And once again, I have all these different choices here of things I can do with that tool. You can change your size here or use the bracket tool, which I prefer. I would recommend a high feather, and I'll show you maybe with it low so you can see the difference. Flow I generally keep up all the way, but what that is, if you set it lower, you have to pass over the area several times in order to make the correction. So it builds up gradually, and some people like that, sort of like shading with a pencil. Auto mask is good because it detects edges and it tries to keep whatever you're doing from bleeding over into another area. So more often than not, keep that checked. And density, you want to keep it 100. Okay, so let's see what we can do with this tool. I want to go ahead and lighten these areas here. I'm going to keep the brush a little bit big because I have the feather high and I think it'll be okay. So let's lighten it up. And this would be too much, but it'll allow me to see what I'm doing. Actually, it's not too bad, as is. Now, I don't like what it did to his ear there. It's a little bit strong. But now I can come back and I can change how much that varies there. I could also come to the shadows and use that to open up the shadows. I could add some clarity to make his face a little bit sharper looking. It's actually mid-tone contrast. And any of these I want to do. Sharpness, I could do that to sharpen that area, though be careful with that. Alright, so that actually looks pretty good. Let's hit his hat a little bit and bring it out. So see, maybe you can see how his head is now starting to separate from the background a little bit when I do that. Maybe I ought to just feather this out some more. Okay, now what if I decide, I don't like that. There's a big kind of green splotch there. Here's a trick. You can hold down the Option key and notice how that plus turns to a minus. Now, while holding the key down, I'm reversing what I just did. And I'm painting out that effect. And I'm going to just stay near his hat. I think I'll leave that little bit there. I like the way that helps separate the back of his head. Okay, really great tool to know how to use. If, let's say I thought that this area here is too bright, I could click on New for a new tool. I could darken the slider. I'm going to use the bracket key to make the brush bigger. And I could come in here and I could darken this area up. Now, of course, that's too much, but it's okay. I can see what I'm doing right now. And then come back and bring that up just a little bit more so it's darker, but not as dark as originally. Once again, I could change the clarity. I could change the color. You can do anything that you want to with that brush tool. Just remember, you have to use a new brush if you want to go and do something different with a different area. Okay? Now, if we hit this switch, we can see the before and the after. Before and after. Okay? So I'd like you guys to make those same changes. Now, just keep in mind, this is one picture, we're doing these certain things, but in a different picture you may want to make other kinds of changes. You may decide you want to darken this white vest a little bit. Let's go ahead and do that. Let's add that to it before we close. I'll go to New, because it's going to be a new skill we're doing. I'm going to darken it a little bit, and it's too much, right? But that's okay. I'm going to come back. I'm going to back off that to where it's not quite so obvious and maybe try highlights instead. Just needs a little bit to bring some texture in there. Might try whites. Alright. Once again, let's see what all we've done. Before and after. Before and after. Okay? I'd like you to do those same corrections for all three photos. Try and make it look as similar to what I've done as you can. And good luck. Let me know if you have any trouble. You can contact me beforehand. If you have general questions, you can add those along with your photos. Please rename and resize your pictures. Thanks, everybody. Have a good week. I'll talk to you soon.